Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Ranking the Albums. And in the co-captain's chair, he's here once again, Mr. Grant Arthur from Grant's Rock Warehouse and the Contrarians, wearing his Peaches hoodie once.
Course. Yeah, well, for some reason, this is what I grabbed. So, but hey, we're wearing it.
It's
So
a popular place, and I know you have a lot of history with Peaches, so
I love Pete. Oh, well, I did when I was a kid.
yeah, yeah.
Man, that was, when you're a kid, you're getting into records. I would beg my dad, can we go, we'd go to Columbus because my uncle lived there. They had a Peaches on Morris Road. And, if we're going to go down to visit my uncle, Dad, take me to Peaches. Because it was huge. It had everything, great imports, great cutouts. And, when I was a kid, man, I just took it all in.
There's nothing
And
like a great record store. There really isn't. Whether it's a little mom and pop place that you hold dearly that you went to when you were a kid, or whether maybe, because I think like for around here, there when I was growing up, there was a bunch of them, but I remember like going to Tower Records,
mhm.
like either in New York City or Jersey or up by here, because we had a couple up here. That was like you could spend hours in these places.
Oh, yeah. Peaches had everything. It had everything, you know, but
I think
it,
we used to.
the import section was just incredible.
Isn't that what most of us judged a record store by how good the import section was?
I did.
Yeah.
And the cutouts, to believe it or not, because if it had a good cutout section, that was good because when you're a kid you don't have a lot of money, but you might see Queen Jazz, which back in the day it was in the cutouts like you wouldn't believe, but you could pick that up.
Yeah.
I don't know, it was just fun. I miss it.
Yeah. I
In
hear you.
fact, right now I just had a thought in my head. I remember at Peaches, I remember seeing a lot of fog hat cutouts, a lot of those late 70s ones. Had a lot of them. I
Yeah.
remember that. I don't know why that popped in my head, but it's weird how I can remember something from
Sure.
like a record store when you were 13, and I can't remember exactly what I did yesterday.
Yep. 45 years ago, a little bit easier than yesterday, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's those weird things that stick out in your mind because I'm picturing too like some of those cutouts that I bought back when I was buying vinyl back in the day.
Hmm.
And like the first one that popped into my mind, I remember buying UFO's Obsession album, like shortly after I got the Lights album. And I remember that top corner was
Yeah.
gone. It was like $1.99 or $2.99 in the cutout bin. I was like, yeah, I'm taking that home with me.
I know we're on a tangent, which is, I love tangents. But when I was a kid, when I was like 5 years old, we had Bargain City was like one of those department stores. And they had a decent record. I wasn't into rock and roll. Well, yeah, I was. By that time I heard the Beatles. So they had a cutout section, and I remember going through, and they had probably about this many of Big Star. What's the second Big Star album on Argent? Now, those records, if you had all those today sealed, you would. I can't even tell you how much those records would be worth. Original Big Star albums in the cutout bin. And I didn't know who they were. I just saw, that's kind of a cool cover. And, but they were like 25 cents.
See, not anymore.
Not anymore. That'd be an expensive record.
Yeah. How many albums did they have in total? Not a lot, right?
Well, when they were together, I mean, I guess there's three. Big Star Third was the third one, but it came out a little bit later. So three.
Yeah. I didn't think it was a lot. Yeah, one of those bands that probably were destined for greatness, but you look back on those first couple
It's
albums.
all about timing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I mean, if we're talking Little River Band, they were perfect for when they came out, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um,
So yes, that's
and
what we're talking about today, guys. The Little River Band from Australia. Is this the first Australian ranking the album show we've done? I don't know. No, we did
uh,
ACDC and yeah, but not a lot. Um, but an interesting band that probably most well known for their handful of big hits. I mean, this band sold some records in the 70s, and they had some
a lot.
chart-topping hits not only here in the States, but certainly in their home country of Australia. But a lot of albums, I think, what, 18, 19, 20 albums, something
Yeah.
like that. And they've had a lot of stops and starts, a lot of like upheaval in the lineups. So, the latter period is basically one or two original members and like all these other faces and just
Now there's not even any original members in the band. And I know they're gonna. they're out touring, but there's no original members.
Yeah,
So it's the Foreigner thing pretty much.
pretty much. Yeah.
And it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, the
I wouldn't
interesting
have
thing,
any interest in seeing them though.
what's cool about this ranking for both of us, we were talking about this before we started recording, is this is a band that we obviously knew the radio hits through the years, but neither one of us really had done any deep dives into the albums. So a couple months ago, we talked about doing this because we've had a lot of people asking for this. So we started going out and getting like lots of the albums and spending time with them over the last couple of months. And I think both Grant and I agree that this is one of those bands that you always know who they are. You like the radio hits, you just never bought any of the albums. And then you go to buy the albums and you realize that there's a lot of really good albums in this catalog. Granted, there's some stuff that's not all that great in this catalog, which we'll hit on today. But we put together a top 10 favorites here. Uh, Maybe not all of our top 10 are great albums, but the upper half of our rankings are very good. I found what were we talking about? Roughly six.
Well, my top six, definitely
Yeah, yeah. I think that's pretty.
gotta have.
Yeah, there are five or six mandatory albums here. And again, what do you even call this band? I think they've been labeled as a soft rock, yacht rock type of band, but there's a little bit of everything. There's hard rock, there's pop, there's a touch of
There's moments, Pete, where it sounds like the Allman Brothers.
yeah, that too as well. Great guitar playing,
Great guitar playing.
Yeah. I mean,
And
early
when I'm
lead
and when
guitar
I'm
player.
and when I'm doing looking at these things, I'm always looking at it from a guitar standpoint. I can't help it. And a lot of these later albums that we're going to talk about are very keyboard oriented, but they were really a guitar band back in the day. Even though that, yeah, they had strings, they had a lot of orchestration, they had a lot of different flourishes, whatever you want to call it. They were still basically a guitar band, I think.
They were a
That's
three guitar band back in the day, which is
Mhm,
crazy, right? I
mhm,
mean, it's
mhm.
who would think of Little River Band, Lonesome Loser as a big guitar band, but absolutely, absolutely they were.
Yeah, when I was a kid, all I heard were the hits. Now, when I was a kid, though, it was one hit after another hit after another hit after another hit. They were just dominating here in the 70s, in the later 70s. And I liked all those songs. I mean, but I was into Styx, I was into, Foreigner, things like that, and I really didn't pay much attention to Little River Band. So this was a good exercise because I do like to go and check out these catalogs that I never paid attention to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to see if there really is something there that, you can grab a hold of and go, wow, wow. Well, I'm glad I heard that.
Cool.
So we've had a lot of those in our
We've done quite a few, and that's kind of cool. It's fun for us, right? And hopefully for those watching, if you're a fan of the band, you finally get coverage on one of your favorite bands. And it's going to come up obviously in this discussion, but I do want to stress the vocal harmonies in this band are top notch because you've
yeah.
got like what three, four guys singing in this band,
Mhm.
which especially early on, and we always love that. You mentioned Styx before. One of the things I love so much about Styx is you got, especially early on, you got the three main vocalists, and all are
Mhm.
great, and they all sound very different from each other. This band is not all; it's fairly similar to that, and you got all these great backing vocals and lead singers, and they just really, really good stuff. You have one guy who mainly became the de facto singer over a few years, but still, Glenn Sharrock.
Sharrock. I know I'm going to butcher his name today.
Yeah, because I want to call him
There's a
Shaq.
lot of things in this catalog I'm probably going to butcher, but I'm going to try not to. But the thing with Glenn, you bring that up, is a good point. He's the defining sound of the band as lead vocalist. When he's in the harmonies, he sticks out. He is the sound of Little River Band in my mind. Yes, there were a lot of vocalists, but none stuck out like Glenn did. And he did the majority of the vocals. Um, I mean, they all contributed, don't get me wrong. But when I think Little River Band, I really think of Glenn Sharrock and his vocals and what he brought to the table.
Yeah, yeah, good stuff.
But
Yeah,
they all wrote.
yeah, they all wrote. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's especially early on. This was a band. They were a band. And and a lot of changes going forward, and but we'll touch on all that. So why don't we do
Okay.
three at a time?
Three at a time's fine.
What's around? Yeah, so we'll start with your 10, 9, and 8, and then
Okay. So these I'm probably not going to spend a lot of time on
yeah, we have a
because,
lot to cover here. Yeah, exactly.
well, a lot of these all kind of sound the same. Okay. So we're talking my number 10, I'm going to go with No Rains, which is the ninth studio album. It came out in 1986. Richard Dodd produced it. There it is. I don't have it. Pete's got the prop. God bless you. Um, what I find here, we have a different vocalist here because by this time, uh, uh, Glenn had already left. And we've got, I'm trying to think of the guy's name. Oh, that's right. Farnham.
John Farnham. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, John Farnham. It's a lot to deal with. And great singer.
really good
Does
singer.
he sound like Glenn? No, it totally gives the band a totally different sound. Now, we were mentioning before that on the earlier albums, you might have something that sounds a lot like Allman Brothers. Little Feat comes to mind. I'm going to bring up, there's
Feet
an
a lot.
album we're talking about, and I'm going, my God, this sounds like Little Feat. So when we get there, we'll talk about it. But by the time you get to these later albums in the 80s, they become much more of an 80s band, if you know what I'm saying. The guitars kind of take a step back. You've got a lot more keyboards, a lot more commerciality here. They don't seem to take any chances like they used to in the on those 70s albums. They would stretch out, play a little bit. You'd listen to the record and you go, wow, I'm impressed. This is just basically a pop band at this point.
Yeah,
Now, my ranking on these certain records could go, you could just throw them up in the air and take your pick. I put No Rains at number 9 because it is pretty slick sounding. It's very keyboard heavy. The guitars take a back seat. And to be quite honest, and I don't think this is a bad record, but nothing on this record particularly took hold of me and stuck out. All pleasant sounding to listen to, but is there really a hit here? Is there something that draws you back to it? Yes, it's pleasant sounding. They have great vocals. The production's fine. But Facing the Crowd was promoted as a single. It didn't do anything on the chart. Forever Blues, like one of the ballads I think on here that people like. I just didn't think it didn't do anything for me. So I put that at number 10. And the ones that did do something for me more, I rated those higher. So that's number 10. Is it a necessary album?
not really.
Not really. I'm trying to be kind. My number 9, I'm going to go with The Net, which is the first album after Glenn left and Farndon came on. Came out October 1983. Spencer Proffer, we all know who that is part of the producers on this. In fact, the next album, he produced the whole thing. Seventh album, uh, the stylings of Little River Band were changing, but we saw that on the album before, but not quite like this. This is, how should we say it? The 80s have arrived, ladies and gentlemen. And is that good or bad? Depends upon where you like your Little River Band. The guitars still have that Little River Band sound. John Farnham is a vocalist, good vocal, but he's a different type of singer. Um, like I said, Glenn was the sound of the band to me, along with everybody else. It was the perfect chemistry, the perfect blend. But when I think of this record, think of 38 Special, ladies and gentlemen. Think of that album, Rock and Roll Strategy, when Don Barnes left and Max Carl came into the band. That's what this record is. Max Carl, great singer. Some great songs on Rock and Roll Strategy, but it totally changed this. It the band, it still sounded like 38 Special, but it was something was off. And that's kind of what you get here. This is their Rock and Roll Strategy. Uh, it got to Australia got up to number 11. It did get up to 61 on the Billboard 200 here, but see, before when Little River
Wide
Band
already. Yeah.
we're selling records, Pete. We're on the downward spiral. Now, you understand, a lot of these bands in the 70s didn't make that transition into the 80s. Look at Cheap Trick. Look at Heart, even though they made the transition, but it's not a good transition. Uh, these guys kind of moved right in it, kind of, slowly changed their sound. But again, this is an okay record, but there's not anything on here that really draws me in. It doesn't make me want to come back to it.
Mhm.
But yes, vocals, there's guitars on it at least. But it's getting pretty slick. And, as we get to these higher albums, you'll know the greatness that we both hear. So, anyway, would I recommend it? Well, if you're a completist, I think it's okay. It's not a bad record. Okay. Now, this album, I kind of dig this album. I'm going number 8. I'm going to go Playing to Win. Now, Spencer Proffer's the producer. Yes, there it is. Here's the this one. I've got like the original Capitol CD. Now go out and try to find one of these, ladies and gentlemen. Pretty crazy. Um, the cover definitely says, "Hey, this is a departure." I mean, it looks like Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics.
It does, right?
You think that's Dave? But Little River Band, we're trying to modernize, trying to stand out, trying to be different. I actually kind of like this record because it is quite a departure, but when I hear it, it's different than the other ones in this Farndom era because I hear this record, it sounds like Alan Parsons meets Survivor, meets Marillion, meets Saga. It's weird. Meets Little River Band.
Yeah.
Does it sound like the Little River Band? No, not at all. It
Yeah.
sounds like Survivor meets Maria meets Saga. But they still have those great background vocals. But you know what? In that later period, I actually kind of dig it. It stands on its own. It got to 38 in the Australian chart. It only got to 75 here. There was a song on here, the title track "Playing to Win." I, it's commercial, but it's
Best
kind of
song on the album.
proggy.
It's the best song
Best
on the
song on
album.
the album. But don't you kind of find this record kind of proggy? Like there's prog tendencies to some
Some
degree?
of the synth patterns and so there's a lot of synthesizers on this album.
A lot.
They're kind of like you mentioned Saga, the way Saga used the synths in there, a lot of leads and things like that. They're on
Yeah.
here. Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh. So I kind of like it, though I don't really take it as a Little River Band out. Oh, well, it's an LRB album, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, but it's okay. Again, some of the songs, I think Playing to Win's the best track. And I do remember that being played back in the day. But man, I think someone might have played it on the listening party too. I think someone did. That might have been one of the last times I really had heard it. But we're still in that same boat. We're in the 80s. Yes, they're trying something new. I have to applaud them that they're trying something like this. And I think it's pretty good. But again, it's the songs. I don't hear anything on here, Pete, that really makes me want to go back to it. But over these particular eras with Farndom, this would be my go-to record.
I had a vote.
Uh,
Yeah.
is it Little River? You wouldn't think it's Little River Band. That's all I'm saying. But look at it as an album on its own, and it's okay. You know. So there's my
Yeah,
three.
I hear you. All right. So my number 10 is going to be The Net. Seventh album, Capitol Records, 1983. First one with John Farnham, and also the new first album with their new guitar player, lead guitar player Stephen Housden. Yeah, they got the picture on the back. Yep. And it's also the last album to feature founding member B. Birtles, who
Mhm.
was guitar player, singer, whatnot. I kind of agree with you here. I think that Farnham is a really good singer. He really changes the sound of this band. Um, my issue with some of with the three albums with him on vocals is I don't think the songwriting's quite there.
Mm-mm.
It's a fine enough album as it is, but there's nothing overly memorable on here. There's some bland pop. There's too many ballads, too many synths. Um, there's a couple blues numbers, like or bluesy numbers, which is kind of strange. But you're driving me out of my mind, which opens the album is really cool. It's got horns, it's lively, it's fun. Um, it's an okay album. Like I
It's
said,
okay.
it's okay. Is it, as you said, is it something that you should go to first in the catalog? No. If you get the Capital Years box set, it's going to be included in there. If you're a completist, you'll want to have it, but it's at the bottom end of my list for a reason. So yeah, number 10 is the Nets. Number nine is going to be Playing to Win, that you
Okay.
mentioned. Again, Capitol Records' eighth album. I mean, Spencer Proffer he's got a very distinct production style. So you know as soon as you listen to especially this album, sounds you just know he had something to do with it. I love the title track. I think that's really good. Um, a lot of reliance on synth melodies, textures, and whatnot. It sounds very much like an album from 1985.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I totally agree with you. This album sounds like a completely different band. Even like from here to
Yeah.
this, it just
I
sounds,
know that's a big like what happened, you know?
yeah. But, in saying that, there's a lot of catchy AOR on this album. It's more of an 80s AOR album. And like when Cathedrals Were White, totally sounds like a prog track. I thought
Yeah.
Marillion and Saga 2 when I was listening, I was like, wow. So there are some good things about this album. Except you have to go into it with an open mind because it's not going to sound like anything else we're going to talk about from here on in. But if you're a fan of like 80s AOR, and pop and synth dominated rock of the times, I think you'll really like this album a lot. For me, it's at the bottom end of this top 10, but it's decent enough. So I think it's pretty good. My number eight, I'm gonna go with 1990's Get Lucky, which is their 11th album.
Oh.
They're on MCA Records at this point in time.
Hmm.
Dennis Lambert produces. It's got If I Get Lucky. So the title of the album is Get Lucky, and the song is If I Get Lucky, whatever. It's pretty catchy. This is their second album with Glenn Sharrock coming back into the band on the lead vocal slot. So he's back full time now, at least for a little bit. And he's great on tracks like There's Not Another You. Second Wind is a really good track. Time and Eternity is pure late 80s, early 90s AOR. It's just hooks all over the place. Good guitar work. There's a little more guitar in here than like the couple albums before it. What else? There's some stuff on here, and I get on some of their 80s albums, a little like Mike and the Mechanics style pop a little bit. Maybe it's the way the vocal layers are. You got that too? Yeah. Uh,
No, but when I was listening to it, Pete, I was trying to think, what is it? I know I've heard it, and it's exactly what you said, Mike and the Mechanics.
yeah.
100%. That's it.
It's like pop. It's 80s pop, right? And it's the way they layer the vocals, I guess, in the 80s. And I mean, this is 1990, but you get
Hey,
the
we're still in the 80s as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, yeah. So I think this is a pretty good album. A couple clunkers. There's a couple too many ballads on here, but the stuff that's good and the rockers are pretty good. I mean, these guys know how to write pop songs, right? So I would recommend this one. Pretty good. I think, yeah, as we move forward, obviously the quality is going to rise exponentially. But there's good stuff on these albums we're talking about, the lower half of the list, but top to bottom, none of them are all that strong, but there's still some good tracks on here. So that's
Mhm.
my 10, 9, and 8.
All right, cool. Well, it's a good one that you mentioned that one because my number seven is Monsoon. Get that. Here you go. There it is. And this is the album that Glenn Sharrock came back on. So the way I look at this, it kind of seems like Little River Band on this record just kind of continue where the last album that he was on, which we haven't talked about, they continue right where he left off. It's like these didn't really exist. Now, the way I look at this is that, yes, now that Glenn's back, we've got those harmonies back. It's really not exactly the way they were in the 70s, but I think it's a welcome return. Got Glenn back. At least we sound like the Little River Band again. Now, that's probably a mistake that I'm doing. I should look at these albums the way they stand on their own, but once you've had such great albums that we're going to review, it's really hard to look at these later ones and go, well, it's not that, but that's the way we do it. So you've got Graham Goble on guitars, and you've got, let's see, Stephen Housden on lead guitar. Great. This is a better record. It's not anything like in the 70s, but man, it's a welcome return. Um, it's Cold Out Tonight. Graham Goble song, uh, single, decent track. I think it sounds great. Um, the thing I don't like about it, I'm not that crazy about the drums on it. It is pretty slick.
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, in my top six, I would totally recommend it. Would I start out with this one? No, because you really want to go with the great stuff that we're going to talk about. But I think it's a decent record. They're on the right track again. As you rated that other album, hey, I either one of these, I think you could flip back and forth, and you would be happy with these.
And the
Um,
guitars are back on this album, which I think is a big
yeah,
for the first time in a few albums.
yeah, and that, like I said, Little River Band, I considered a guitar band, and it's nice to have that back. It's refreshing. I think the fans at the time really embraced it. It's okay. The problem is it's on MCA.
Yeah.
And did this do anything? It didn't do anything. But welcome return. And I'm not sure. I don't know what you think about this cover, but it doesn't really look too Little River Band to me. Uh, there might have been a lot of things at play. I don't know if MCA promoted this record, but we're talking, this is late in their career. They've had their run pretty much. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's okay.
obviously, if you look at album covers like this, it doesn't really speak all that. I mean, it looks like
Just,
a 5-year-old did this, right? I mean, it's
yeah. But if you do like Little River Band, you haven't heard this, I'd say, yeah, go check it out.
yep, yep.
Check it out. Yeah, and in the comments, let us know what you think about it. All right, my number six. Now, these are the albums in which I think everyone needs. I start off number six. You might think that this should be rated higher, but it didn't. I'm gonna go with their second album, After Hours. This didn't get released in the United States until 1980. Uh, what they had previously done here in the States is like combine tracks from this and combine tracks with yet another album we haven't talked about. And I'm gonna butcher the name of it. Uh, Diamantina Cocktail.
I think that's how you say it. Yeah, yeah.
Jesus, what a name. I'm going to show you that album real quick since I'm mentioning it. So, really, in the States, we got a combination of tracks from this album and After Hours. Now, the CD was reissued on a one way. You get the Australian album. So, this is what I'm reviewing. And there you go. Now, this is out of print. I'm not even sure, Pete, what's in print. I know you can still stream a lot of this stuff, but I will say this CD sounds really good. A lot of open space around the instruments. It's a guitar record for sure. Uh, but I'm really surprised that Capitol Records in the States rejected most of this because this is really a good record. Um,
Weird how the early in the catalog you had like different release dates, obviously in Australia and here, and then on a
mhm,
couple of those albums they were different track listings, right? They would that's very
yeah,
bizarre. So I have all the US versions, so that's what I'll be talking about. But they're mainly the same. There's a couple different tracks from
different tracks.
yeah, but otherwise,
But
but yeah,
anyway,
I totally get what you're saying.
great production, very open. Like I said, the instruments have a lot of air, but nothing really sticks out to me as singles. It's just a good sounding record, good vocals, harmonies are here, everything you want in Little River Band checks that box. The thing is with this record, it's not quite as smooth as they became. I mean, like I said, in the 80s they get really smooth and get really commercial. This really isn't all that commercial.
No.
Um, but you get a lot of different takes. Like one of the songs, LA in the Sunshine, it sounds like funky little feet. In fact, this whole record to me has that sound of just listen to any of those early Little Feet albums and you'll go, yeah, well, yeah, I get that. You like Little Feet, you'll probably like this because there's a lot of good guitar playing, production's good, blah, blah, blah. I like it. Is it the best album of the bunch? Well, some people really like it, but I'm putting this at number six. There's the back of it. Can't tell. There's something on there. But of course, as with all the one ways, there's really no information.
Yeah, I know.
All right. So that's my what was that, six? Number five. I am going to go with, as I scroll to it. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go with the debut. Here's the cover. This is the US cover.
The better of
This
the
came out
two.
Better of the two.
The Australian cover is not quite as good. That
Not as good. It kind of looks like Steeler's wheel.
yeah.
But there you go. Picture of the band. Again, not anything of a booklet, but it sounds great. Came out in November of 75. You get different elements of country rock, you get soft rock. But this, I love this record. Yeah, it's not up there like it should, but because there's better records than this. It's a long way there. You got strings, you got harmonies, acoustic guitar. Is this prog? It's kind of proggy to some degree.
What? Yeah.
Um, by the time, okay, I keep thinking Alan Parsons Project on this record. Um, I mean, tinges of it. The guitar on it reminds me of Alan Parsons Project. Graham Goebel sounds great. It's kind of in that Steely Dan vein, you know. It's a
Yeah.
good
There are
opener.
some. Yep. Yep.
When you listen to this, Pete, you get a what I hear is a serious band with serious chops. Because that opening track is killer. Curiosity Killed the Cat. Dare I say yachty, ladies and gentlemen. It's a smooth, funky number. We could be playing this on the next yacht rock show. We could be sitting on our yacht having something to drink and it would fit right in. Uh, Meanwhile, is another guitar blaze track. It's very Alan Parsons Project to me. Harmony guitar. My Lady and Me, you got Rhodes piano. Harmonies are top notch. The organ solo on this track absolutely kills. These guys are superior players. Um, I always call your name a soft rock track, a little bit of country sprinkled on top. The solo kicks it. It takes it into another atmosphere, fun track. But this record, they kind of go all over the map. They do a lot of different styles. Um, but when I listen to it, I'm going, "Eh, yeah. Take Me Home kind of goes into Air Supply territory. Almost a mix of, it kind of reminds me of a mix of Dennis DeYoung and Graham Russell of Air Supply if you mixed it together. So I really like this album. I think After Hours, this one, you have to have it in your wheelhouse. Get it today if you can get it. It's great. These guys are such great players. And I think I don't hear so much that Little Feat thing on this record like I do in the second album, but man, well worth the price of admission if you can pick this up.
There's a
Um,
lot of people that rate the debut as their favorite. I've seen that quite a bit, and
I've seen that too.
I
Well,
could see
think
it.
about it. It's pure Little River Band.
Yeah.
All the things you want are there. Glenn's vocals, the harmonies, the guitars, the musicianship. Yeah, I could see it because it's pure. It's not slick by any means.
No, no.
You know, it's not, I guess commercial is what I'm trying to say. So I can see that, you know. Man, if these later albums could have sounded like this, I would have been sign me up.
You know, it's funny you talked about the great organ and electric piano work on this album, and
Yeah.
a lot of really great keyboard work on these early albums. But they didn't have a full-time keyboard player. So like every album, you know, they had the three guitar players, but all the
Mhm.
keyboards would be done by session musicians that would come in and add all that stuff. I always thought that was interesting up until later on, like in the 80s, because their music was so dominated by keyboards and
Mhm.
synths, they had a full-time keyboard player, but not early on, strangely enough.
The thing is with these, yeah, they have Fender Rhodes, they have organ, but those don't really date it so much because it fits right in with the track. You
Yeah,
listen to some of those 80s tracks and you're going, well,
it's a little too much. Yeah.
1985, ladies and gentlemen. But
Yeah.
this sounds like someone could have put this out yesterday.
Yeah, yeah, it's very, most of these albums are really well produced in this
So
era.
that's my number five.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I guess that was it. That was my three.
All right, my seven is also going to be Monsoon. I think we both had it at number seven.
Mhm.
So 10th album, 1988. Pretty good album.
Mhm.
Good return for Glenn into the band. I'm not going to spend too much time on it 'cause I think you covered it pretty well. I love tracks like Son of a Famous Man, which again, the guitars are back here, which I really, really like. They tone the synths down from the previous albums. I like it. Great Unknown is good. It's kind of a weird boogie song on here, Shadow in the Rain. It's just kind of bizarre for them. Not really all that much on.
Yeah, it kind of sticks out.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. It just doesn't fit. But It's Cold Out Tonight is really good.
Mhm.
Parallel Lines is really good. There's a couple ballads that don't really do much for me, but otherwise a good return. It sounds like Little River Band again. And again, when
Yep.
you get that voice back, kind of helps. So I think out of all their latter 80s albums, easily that's probably the best in my opinion.
Yeah, on that record, I should didn't mention it, but Parallel Lines is one of those tracks that kind of stick out for me.
It's quite good. Yeah, it's
It's
really.
quite good. So there's some good stuff, but like I said, I wouldn't start out here, but
So we obviously have all of the same albums in our
maybe.
top of the list, but I think it's gonna be a little different. But so I think at this point on in the ranking, regardless of how he and I rank them, I think folks you need these. These are the upper echelon. I could change my ranking of these at
Yep.
any time because they're all really, really good. I'm going to go with Time Exposure at number six from
Okay.
1981, their sixth album, EMI Capitol Records. George Martin produces this album.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah. So,
And
and
I think doesn't Jeff oh the guy oh man, Jeff Emmerich, I think's the engineer on it.
I think, yeah, I believe so. Yep. So this is a really good sounding album. It's the last with Glenn before he leaves for Monsoon. And it's the last with lead guitarist David Briggs. Now, David Briggs was the main lead guitar player on a lot of these albums we're going to talk about going forward. Really good player.
Big.
Really good player.
Underrated, boy. I'll tell you that. People should be speaking his name more often.
Yeah, really good player. They've had really good players in this band to begin with.
Hmm.
So we haven't really talked about him, but we talked earlier on about how, you had a couple of guys that would sing lead around Glenn here. Bassist Wayne Nelson also sang a lot of tracks on a lot of these albums, and he actually sings on The Night Owls, which is the big hit on this album. Now, I think The Night Owls is one of their greatest songs. I mean, it's just got a
I
great
do too.
chorus, great guitars, really nice beat to it. I absolutely love it. I think it's just so underrated. And it was a pretty decent hit for them. Maybe not one of their major hits, but to me, it's one of their best songs. I absolutely love it. Man on Your Mind is really good. There's some funk on this album, some pop. Um, Take It Easy on Me has everybody singing. It's just great soaring track, really so good. I mean, that's how you write a pop song that
Yep.
rocks, right? I mean, it's just so good. Ballerina's got B. Birtle singing lead vocals, and that's totally yachty. I mean, just absolutely. I think, uh, it's got this nice little tasty guitar solo, but again, you can envision yourself out on the water somewhere, just soaking in the sun, having a drink, got your hat on. It's very, very cool. A lot of good stuff on here. Suicide Boulevard is another really good track on here. And to me, that sounds like the sequel to their other big hit, Lady. Kind of has a similar vibe. I really like that a lot. Orbit Zero sounds like art rock or prog to me.
Yep.
Great vocal layers, the arrangement's good. Don't Let the Needle Win, high energy melodic rock with a great guitar solo. Guiding Light again features Beebe on lead vocals, so good. I mean, this was a gold album here in the States. It's one of their better ones for sure. Could rank higher. I think it's really, really great. Like it a lot.
So
Uh,
that came out of your box set, right? That's
yeah,
where you got okay. Yeah,
yep.
because I know some of the I know that box set's expensive, but I do can tell you it came out on collectibles once
Oh, a two
as
on one
a
thing. Yeah, yeah.
it came on a twofer, so you can get it that
Those
way,
are good to
maybe
get. Yeah,
save
there's
it.
multiple versions of these. Like you had some of the one-way ones. I think I've got the
Yeah.
one of After Hours, which is my next pick. So there, you can get most of these. This is hard to come by nowadays. I was able to get it on Discogs a couple months ago, and it was a little on the pricey side, but I don't see
Hmm.
them anywhere anymore. It's like sometimes with these little collections, right? You if you don't grab them when you find them, you may never see them again, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, After Hours is number five for me. Again, it's messy when you look at the Australian release versus the US release. But I mean, all the songs are available on either this or the other release, which we'll talk about soon. But second album, EMI Records. I mean, Sean City, Cien City. I don't never know how it's a kind of like a
I'm not even going to attempt it.
yeah, I mean, that's got like a Celtic feel. It's got acoustic instruments. I like it. Bourbon Street, rootsy, bluesy, reminds me of Little Feat. I put that down.
Hmm.
Sweet Old Fashioned Man, that's kind of country-ish. Maybe a little too much for me. But then you got Country Girls, which is kind of this moody, bluesy rocker with great lead guitar, great electric piano. The Drifter is a cool, funky rocker. I love the clavinet and the horns.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love clavinet and horns? LA in the Sunshine, again, more funky kind of Little Feat rocker. Witchery is a great track. Real catchy, good rocker. Changed and Different also reminds me of Little Feat. Great sax solo. I think it's a really good album. I like others better, but that's my number five.
Hmm. Yeah, I could have ranked it up higher. Maybe tomorrow I would have, but
Yeah. It's
It's
good. It's
still one of
definitely
those
up there.
records.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's definitely up there. All right, you want to blast through your four, top four?
sure. Okay. Well, my number four is going to be Time Exposure. There it is.
Yep.
Again, down in the bottom. September in 81 came out on Capitol, of course, reached 21 on the Billboard 200. It's like the last hurrah for Little River Band here in the States. Yeah, the other albums did sell kinda a little bit, but this was like one of the last, well, like I said, last hurrah. Uh, I think it got up to number 9 in Australia. And you mentioned the single, The Night Owls. Oh my God, got up at number 6. Very catchy. I love it. It's one of my favorite songs by Little River Band. I'm with you 100%.
That
Catchy. It's got
chorus is
everything we want, the
unforgettable. Yeah.
chorus, the harmonies, the guitars.
Moody. It's not overly
Mood.
syrupy or anything, right? It's got kind of like a dark feel, and
Hmm.
I like a good pop song or pop rock song that has a dark feel. I mean, because I can work too, right? Yeah.
Hmm. And it's got that. It's checking every box for me, Pete. It Easy on Me also charted number 10 on the Billboard, so it was a hit. More of a romantic type of song, but I think it's great. This is like the last record that I kind of look at it as pure Little River Band.
Mhm.
When I'm looking for Little River Band, there are certain things I want to hear. And I guess, is it the 70s? Well, this is what? What year is this again? Remind me. 81. So
81.
we're in the 80s, but are we in the 80s? It still has a lot of that tonality or that production aspect that they had in the 70s, which I think has a lot to do with their sound. But this record, you can kind of hear that the keyboards are starting to come in. So if we have this record, I think the natural progression from this record would be from this to this. You could skip those Farndom records and just go right to this, and it would, oh yeah, that feels like the natural progression.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think it's a great record. These in my top four. Come on, I,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
To
like them
me, the
all.
top four are almost interchangeable. They're
Hmm.
all really great. And
Hmm.
I could change my ranking at any time. In fact, I struggle with the top four. It's like, well, which
I
one?
do want to mention something because I think what you said about this, I can't put it any better than you did. I think it was perfect. I do want to mention this. Don't you think Man on the Run reminds you of the song I'll Be Around, that Motown track?
Oh,
It's just like the same riff. I'm sitting there, what is that riff? It sounds like I'll Be Around. I mean, I like it. Uh Take It Easy on Me, great track, catchy vocals. My notes, I just have, the thing I want to mention. It's great playing on all these records up to this point, I think. Um, but you do start hearing those 80s synths, like I said. It's just more straight ahead pop, but it's still good because it's well executed. So I love this record. My next one, I'm gonna go with Under the Wire. Wait a minute. First, Under the Wire. You know what I just noticed? Well, I didn't notice it, but I was looking at him. Of course, I've seen this album cover forever. But I just noticed that there's a person running in front of him. I never realized that this was like a
oh yeah.
track.
Yeah.
All I always paid attention to were the band members and go,
Yep.
why are they sitting there? But that's all right. This
He's
came
on
out
the
in
back
19.
too. He's on the back too.
Yeah, not funny. There you go. I don't know. It looks like Jesus. It might be Jesus running. I don't know, but it could be. First Under the Wire, kind of a odd title. Came out July of 79, reached number 14 in the US, number 2 in Australia. Hey, this got up to gold, 500,000 copies. Lonesome Loser is on here, which was a big hit, a standout single, reached number 6. Wonderful, wonderful, catchy. You've got the band harmonies. It is quintessential Little River Band. Cool Change, another hit. Wonderful. Number 10, Laid Back. This is what I think Little River Band sounds like.
Yeah.
In my monkey brain, that's what I think, and it's hard for me to get past it. But this has everything: production, guitars, instrumentation. The production's good. I don't know. Lonesome Loser. What else can we say? Oh, The Rumor. Good song. Little River Band rocker. Everything you want in Little River Band is here, you know. I'm almost thinking we had another single called It's No Wonder that was released as a single, and I don't think it did anything. But I hear the rumor and I'm going, man, that's great production. That should have been a single. I don't know why it wasn't. Great guitar playing, tasty leads. Man, come on. Hard Life, a guitar tour de force. I put on my notes. Distinctly L Little River Band, way cool. It's a way cool lead. Oh, but that prelude. Oh wait, I know what I'm doing. Hard Life Prelude, which is kind of like an intro to Hard Life. That's the guitar tour de force.
Oh yeah.
It kind of leads into the next track. What a way! What an awesome way to lead into Hard Life. I love it. Um, what else did I write? Mistress of Mine got electric sitar on it. It's a nice touch. It gives it that exotic kind of tonality, but I like it. You got blending of pop rock, soft rock and roll, all kinds of things. Productions here, like I said, what more can I say? I dig it.
Right.
So this is also the last album with that original lineup, with Graham, which we want. There you go. No, that was the other album. This is not the last album without Graham. Grant, Jesus, brain.
Glenn.
All right, my number two, and I'm gonna try to pronounce it. I probably will fail again. Diamantina Cocktail. Now, I mentioned before that this was a combination of the second Australian album in this here in the States, but I think the CD, this is the original Capitol CD, and I do believe this is the Australian lineup. This got gold by the time in 1978, even though this came out in 1978, 77. That's pretty good, but this is a great record. Help is on its way. Oh, great opener, hooky, great songwriting, vocals. The thing about this record, this is the third album, but this is where I really think that their songwriting took off. Everything really gelled on this record. I mean, it's not overly produced. There's a lot of air around the instruments. It's not slick by any means. Um, Days on the Road, David Briggs, great guitar player,
Yeah.
atmospheric, almost jazzy. You've got strings. Glenn's vocals on here kick, improved songwriting. Happy Anniversary.
Great
One
song.
of those great songs. And the hits just keep on coming,
I'm
ladies and
coming,
gentlemen.
right?
Smooth. It's kind of got a yachty vibe. Killer bass from George McArdle. Uh, is it is it funk? Is it disco? You got another killer guitar solo on here.
Yep.
I really dig this record. Another Runaway starts off with an oboe intro. It's a ballad. Fender Rhodes, Bebe Birtle vocals. Kind of reminds me of the Eagles. It's very much in the style of those Eagle ballads. If you're familiar with any of those, it kind of is like that. Every Day of My Life is another Bebe vocal rocker with horns. The bass is thumping on this. Great. I could keep going on. The whole record is great. I could listen to this over and over. I love it. Um, what was it? The one track, Help is on its way. If I kind of forgot about that song, but it was a hit. It got to number 14, but man, until I had this, you know, assignment, so to speak, I really kind of forgot about that song.
I think
But
that's
it's
the thing with this band. I think most people think Little River Band, they think Lonesome Loser, and that's it. But then all of a sudden, you hear those other five or six pretty big hits, and you're like, "Oh, that was them too." It's like, yeah, there's a lot
well,
of them.
Happy Anniversary was a big
Yeah,
single back in the day, and to be quite honest, I didn't realize it was Little River Band.
yeah, yeah.
So I dig it. I love it. So that's a good one. My number one, probably no surprise. I don't want to know what Pete's got, but we're going to go with Sleeper Catcher. Now, this one came out in 78. Hey, this was a big record. Reached number one in Australia. Got to number 16 here in the States. Come on. This is great. Lead single Reminiscing, and that's probably one of those songs. Reminiscing, Lonesome Loser. This is what you're going to identify
Yeah.
Little River Band with. This got up to 35 on the Billboard Hot 100. Now, you would thought Reminiscing, in my mind, was a lot bigger hit than I'm thinking. I'm reading it only got to 35. Really?
Really? Wow. Okay.
I can't imagine. So, other single on this record, this has the song Lady that got to number 10 and Lonesome Loser. My God, they're just on fire on here. But this has everything that I like. Improved songwriting. You've got hits. It's catchy. You've got a lot of great instrumentation. The guitars are blaring. You get ballads. You get the kitchen sink with this record. This, I just think, is the best album they ever put out. Now, like you said, some people think that debuts it. Well, I just think that the songwriting has improved a lot by leaps and bounds on this record. Speaking of guitar, let me Red-Headed Wildflower.
No, good song.
Get Strat sounds on this. The band is on fire. Very catchy, but man, this is just a rocker that you need to hear. Light of Day's got fretless bass, rich harmonies, strings. It's smooth, baby. It's smooth. Listen to that on your yacht. Uh, Fall from Paradise, lots of intro vocal effects, but the track starts rocking after a while. It's kind of proggy, a little bit of prog, a little bit. It's kind of hard to describe, but it kind of reminds me of Styx. And then, of course, Lady, great song. I could go on and on, but if you like Lady, you like reminiscing, you like to rock a bit, you like a little yacht, this album's for you. I
Oh,
think it's
yeah.
a great record. So that's my number one.
I agree. More on that in just a couple minutes.
All right.
Number four, Diamantina Cocktail.
Yep.
Great album. Great album. I mean,
Great album.
two hits are amazing. Help Is on the Way and Happy Anniversary are absolutely terrific songs. I agree with you. Here by their third album, I think they've completely figured out stuff at this
Yep.
point. And
Yep.
man, the vocal harmonies are off the charts on this album. I hear, listening to some of their vocal harmonies, I hear like a little Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young,
Oh yeah.
little Doobie Brothers, little Steely Dan, right?
Yep.
That's, yeah, it's just great. Another Runaway is so good. Every day of my life, I love the horns on that. The guitar solo is great. Home on Monday is just a great pop song. Great. I love the strings. This is a band that uses strings in a subtle way that really adds to it, where you don't just hear the strings, right? They're there in the background. They don't do it all the time. Really, really well done. The Inner Life is really good. Got the funky horns, slide guitar. I mean, yeah. Take Me Home sounds like a breezy yacht rock song. It's kind of funky. It's got some cool, crisp guitars. Yeah, this is a really, really great album. Really great album.
Mm-hmm.
My number three is going to be the self-titled debut,
Okay.
which I like quite a bit. Um, it's a long way there. Tasty guitars, loads of harmony, leading harmony, backing vocals. Again, I hear little Eagles, hear a little Southern rock, hear a little Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. The first couple albums had Rick Formosa on lead guitar. Again, we haven't really talked about him yet. He's amazing, really good, but he didn't stay with the band for too long, which is a shame, but really good player.
Good player.
Curiosity Killed the Cat, so much fun, kind of funky. You got clothes all over the place, right?
What CD version do you have?
I
Just
have the EMI one.
okay. There you go. Some more band
What is that? The
footage.
one way?
One way, yeah.
Yeah, this doesn't have much in it either. It's got this on the inside and then like a little essay on the back. So there's a lot, like I said, it's a lot of issues of these albums that you can get out there. My Lady and Me again reminds me of Steely Dan, a little bit of Doobie Brothers, really good. Like I said, there's a little bit of this pop on here. There's a little bit of Southern rock. There's art rock. There's funk. Statue of Liberty reminds me of Chicago. Got some cool sax on there. And then like the closing number, I Know It, has got strings. It's got acoustic guitar. It's really, really nice. Really strong album, great vocals, great instrumentation. Maybe a little bit more off over all over the place stylistically speaking, but I think it's really, really good. And like I said, a lot of people list this as their favorite. I wouldn't really argue that all that much.
Yeah,
So
I'm glad you mentioned the Doobie Brothers and Chicago. Because
yeah,
we've done this before. I try to listen to it. So what would it sound like? And I totally missed that, but you are 100% right. Doobie Brothers, Chicago. It's right in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
A
Yeah.
little hints. They're not
Little heads.
little hints here and there. Number two, I'm going to go with First Under the Wire from '79. All right, big seller for them. Obviously, you had the huge hit on here, Lonesome Loser, which is a great song. I always thought
Hmm.
it was a great song. It's got big soaring vocals, sizzling guitars, instant classic, so good. The Rumor is amazing. I think the only song on here that I don't really care for all that much is By My Side.
Hmm.
It's kind of pop. It's got a little grandiose flair to it, but it's
Hmm.
the Cool Change is amazing. It's Not a Wonder is amazing. Hard Life, I love that. Like you. The first part is instrumental. It's pretty cranky.
Yeah.
And the second part is a good rocker. It's really good. It's kind of proggy, actually. Like I really dig that a lot. Middleman is amazing. David Briggs is just playing great stuff on here. Man on the Run. He's got nasty guitar tones on that. This is a really good album. This deserves all the success it got. It's quite good. Again, a lot of people might pick that as their number one. But I'm going to agree with Grant here, and I'm going to go with my number one is going to be Sleeper Catcher, their fourth album. Yeah, I mean, and again, the only real difference between the US and Australian releases is the track listing is different. Same songs, just sequence different.
Yeah.
So, but man, Shut Down, Turn Off, great. George McCardle's, the bass player, is really up front in the mix on this album. And he's a really smooth, melodic bass player, and I like hearing him. I love when you hear the bass player in the mix and you can hear all those bass lines.
Hmm. Yeah, and I must say, there are a lot of records like that. The bass on this in this band always seems to be up, kind of like when you listen to Paul McCartney and when he's in Wings. They always boost up Paul's bass, and I'm
Oh,
going,
absolutely.
wow, this is like that. The bass is predominant, but the bass playing on whoever, they get top-notch people.
Yeah.
I mean, if a bass player leaves, they get someone in that just can fill that void, and it's always kind of very tastefully done, and it's always up in the mix, and
Yeah.
it's really a standout thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And I love him on this album. He's so good. The two hits are amazing. Reminiscing is just a great pop single. Love the electric piano. Love the vocal harmonies. Just so good. Lady, I mean, that chorus this band writes great choruses. They really
Yeah.
do. Just
Hmm.
so good. Sanity Side is really good. Redheaded Wildflower is a great rocker. I love the fact that this band can also do these like hard rock anthems. Really
Hmm.
good. Light of Day. It's like 8 minutes long. It's got those kind of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young vocal harmonies. A lot of cool stuff going on there. Got flute. You got nice liquid guitar solos. Yeah, I mean this is to me their strongest album through and
Hmm.
through. Even though a lot of these are really great. I think for me, I said before, like my top four can kind of interchange. I still think this would be my number one.
Hmm.
It's just really good. And this was platinum on both sides, both Australia and here,
And
and
for
was
good reason.
yeah, really good stuff. 9 tracks, all of them are really good. So, and David Biggs is playing some really fine guitar on this album. Really good.
The
Fall
thing
from
is with
Paradise is
these,
really good. Fall from Paradise. I didn't mention Fall from Paradise.
oh yeah,
Really, they mix like orchestral and pop together, which is like, okay, I'm sold. It works. So, because a
but
lot
the
of it,
thing is with these records, our top four, there's nothing like this in the later catalog.
you
There are no songs on these later catalog albums that the songwriting even comes close.
yeah,
I mean, like I said, they sound fine, but there's just not any, there's the magic that's on these three CDs, and I'm just going to say aren't there on the later stuff.
yeah.
So if you're a completist, go check them out. But
Oh, for
man,
sure.
you do anything and you're just getting into this band, please go check these out. Go check out the debut album. You can find it. Check this out. It's all great playing on these.
And if you like live albums, I
Yeah.
also recommend getting Backstage Pass, which came out right after this album, and it's got really good. It's a long way there. So many paths. Statue of Liberty, Fall from Paradise, Light of Day, Reminiscing, Man in Black, Help is on the Way, Hard Life, The Rumor, Mistress of Mine, Too Lonely, Too Long, Red Shoes, I Don't Worry No More, Let's Dance, Man on the Run, It's Not a Wonder, and Sweet Old Fashioned Man. Oddly enough, there is no Lonesome Loser on here, which is kind of strange.
The CD, the one-way CD of After Hours has three bonus tracks and they're live cuts.
Live cuts, yeah.
It's got The Butterfly, Days on the Road, Long Jumping Jeweler, and those, if you can get this CD, my God, I think that maybe, possibly, because this is the only thing that I have. I don't have that live album that you have, but I think I'm going to have to check it out. I was listening to these live tracks and I'm going, oh my God,
Yeah, yeah.
what these are guys like on the level of Steely Dan, Allman Brothers, Toto, and they're playing live and they're so tight. The vocals are great, it's clean, and oh my God, the guitars on here on those live cuts.
Yeah.
If you can find this, get this because it's some great, great live bonus tracks. Man,
Yeah, it's
love
weird.
it.
And like a couple of those the live tracks were actually studio songs from that Australian only release. And
Okay.
instead of putting the studio versions on that album, they put live versions on it.
Okay.
It's whatever, because arguably the live versions are better, right? So
Well, me personally, I'm going to go venture out and listen to some live Little River Band and see how that compares. Well, you've heard the live album. What's your opinion of that live album?
really good. Yeah, it's really good. There's again, all the qualities are there. They do stretch out a little bit, and obviously it's a little more vibrant and everything. So yeah, I would highly recommend this.
Okay.
For those who are, who love live albums for sure, go check it out.
But like you said, you can hear the band stretch out a bit. You
Yep,
can hear the different. I mean, how's the recording? I mean,
really
these
good.
sound great. Okay, good,
Really
awesome.
good. Yeah, and
I'll
the
check it out.
guitars are roaring up front, and so it's quite good. Yeah.
Yeah, cool, awesome.
So there you have it, everybody. A look at the our top 10 favorites in the Little River Band catalog. Obviously, we've really highlighted the ones that we think you guys should go check out first if you haven't already. If you are a fan of the band and have been following them all these years, let us know how you would rank their catalog down there in the comments below. And happy listening, everybody. Grant, what's going on over at the warehouse? And
Oh my God, what is not going on? I'm
yeah,
backed up. I got shows to edit. I got contrarian shows to edit. We did like on contrarians, we did like our top five AC/DC albums. Martin showed up for that. We did that. I got to get that out. We're doing the live shows on Wednesday. We didn't do one last week. I did a listening party, but we're going to be back on the Contrarians Wednesday. What else is on the warehouse? Oh, we have a listening party tomorrow. Rand Kelly's going to be back, and we're
well,
going to do more prog. It's prog month
I
here
would
in
assume you would
warehouse.
if Rand's going to be on.
Rand's, yeah. So you probably won't know any of these prog songs because Rand's all way out there. So Rand will be back. I don't know. There's
Don't you
just
have
more
some with
coming.
Anthony? Isn't some with Anthony coming soon?
Oh, Anthony Ferrara. Yeah, I've got to get that edited. We looked at, God, now my brain. What did we look at? He's going to be coming up, though. We're going to look at Frank Zappa, the Live in Philadelphia CD that's got Terry Bozzio, Eddie Jobson on it.
I
That's
would
coming up
think I
here in
would
a week.
figure if it was going to include Anthony, it would have to have Eddie included, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but there, I think, what did we do? God, I can't remember what we did.
Steve
Do you
Vai,
ever
did you
do
do
this,
Steve
Pete?
Vai?
Huh?
You did Steve
Oh,
Vai?
we did Steve Vai.
Okay.
Steve Vai knows what I mean, Pete knows what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing.
Because I hear it
We
from him.
did we
Yes.
did our top five Steve Vai albums, and I got to work on that today, so that should be out later today.
Cool.
But I'm backed up. I'm backed up.
Okay. Well,
So
busy
there's
is
more coming.
there you go.
Now I do want to mention something before we wrap it up. We did the Osmonds on my channel,
Yes.
and we did just a career retrospective of the whole 70s albums. Now, for my measly channel, which is, 7,100 and some subs, if I get a view that's 3,100 views, that's pretty good. That Osmond show went through the roof.
Why wouldn't
Now,
it?
who would have imagined?
I wouldn't have.
No, but evidently no one's covering the Osmonds. But give the
Yeah.
Osmonds a fair shake. Let's talk about them. That's the way
Hey,
it is.
if it succeeds, that's a good thing, right?
Well, like this show, you listen to it, you listen to these records. Hopefully, you can get something out of them. Hopefully, you can discover something that you missed. And I did. Those three Little River Band albums for me. I'm not going to get rid of anything because I don't get rid of anything anymore. But I think they're must-haves, you know.
I would
So,
agree.
but there's Osmond stuff you would be surprised. So I'm just saying.
It's not all about the Donnie Marie that everybody remembers, right?
No, well, you know, everybody thinks that they were just a pop band, but actually they really wanted to rock out. And they do. I mean, look at Crazy Horses. Come on.
Yeah.
That's good.
That
I
song that we
like it.
played on the listening
Yeah,
party.
yeah. Well, I can't remember the name of it, but it was off the Plan, which is considered their prog concept album. And they're rocking on there.
Yeah, that song was heavy. That's some heavy.
Heavy. Gee, many Christmas. So it's all fun. That's why we do these shows. They're fun.
That's right.
Talking music. So anyway, there you go.
All right. So thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together all the damn
All the damn
time.
time.
Please go frequent Grant's channels as well. Give him some love over there, and we'll see you next week here on ranking the albums. I'm not quite sure what it's going to be yet, but you'll know very, very soon. I got a whole long list of stuff. Grant and I have other stuff we've got to talk about and finalize, but yeah, lots coming as always here on ranking the albums for Grant Arthur, I am Pete Pardo. Enjoy your week, everybody, and the rest of your day on Sunday, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.
Yeah.